So recently, a bunch of you guys might have heard about the story of Fallout 76 going free to play, or quietly going free to play, or potentially going free to play. I know at least some of you have, because many of you have been messaging me asking for me to actually make a video on this. And well, here I am. I'm going to talk about what the current situation is, why Fallout 76 isn't presently going free to play as per Bethesda, but even further, there's another story I want to cover at the end of this video about some new in-game event that seemingly has started. It's very small, very minor, but very interesting also. So first and foremost, let's take a look at this new free-to-play story. It was all started by one YouTuber known as TheQuartering. A couple of days ago, he made a video saying, is Fallout 76 quietly going free-to-play? Following that, it was picked up by many other content creators, many news outlets, some of which linked back to his video, others didn't, but effectively it seems like his was the true source of this. I'll have a full link to his video down below if you guys want to see it. It is the source for some of this information, but otherwise, in this video, I'm going to be giving my own take on what he talks about. So the core or the basis of that first video is that this guy has two contacts at EB Games Australia that have reached out to him saying that they presently are shipping physical copies, like taking them off the shelves at the store and shipping them somewhere. It later seems like this ended up being a distributor recall, basically Bethesda saying, hey, we're going to take some of these copies back. And even further, if you actually go on EB Games website, you could only find used copies for sale of Fallout 76. And even more interesting, those used copies are buy one, get one free, which is fairly unusual just in gaming in general. Oftentimes people don't want to buy two copies of the same video game. That's rather odd. And following that, he checked out some other websites like Amazon, noticing that they too had low stock, with the ultimate conclusion being that seemingly Bethesda was recalling copies of Fallout 76. What he thought that meant was they could perhaps be going free to play in the near future. They're pulling copies off of shelves because once they announce it, they're obviously not going to sell copies of the game for money anymore. And just to highlight one thing I think TheQuartering missed or got wrong in his original video, not that it really changes the ultimate conclusion, the reason it was limited stock on Amazon is because it was a third-party seller. He realized that, but I don't think he realized if you actually just select Amazon.com as the seller, you can see only that third-party seller that Amazon is fulfilling through has the limited stock. In the follow-up video, he actually got further confirmation from other users. Apparently also Best Buy and GameStops are shipping copies back to Bethesda. And to keep things fairly short, it seems like it's pretty concrete that people are shipping physical copies of Fallout 76 back to Bethesda. TheQuartering took that to mean that they could potentially be going free to play in the future. Somebody on Twitter actually tweeted at Bethesda and Fallout saying that if Fallout 76 goes free to play, he wants a refund or more than just 500 atoms and he'll be pissed. And of all places, this is where the official Bethesda account actually gave their response, saying there is no truth to this rumor. And yes, this is seemingly their official response. A contact from Bethesda actually reached out to TheQuartering following his video and referenced their official tweet response. And yeah, I guess this is it. And even further, EB Games Australia, the retailer where this all started in, gave a response to somebody who has reported that he found that all the standard editions of Fallout 76 are pulled from the shelves at his local EB Games. They say here, hi Andrew, this information is categorically incorrect. EB Games will continue to support Fallout 76, both brand new and pre-owned, and it remains an active product through both our stores and website. Customers can now pick up the EB exclusive Tricentennial Edition for $79.95. And it seems like all of that coming together is really the nuts of this story. And there's actually a couple of other pieces of information that are interesting to go along with this when reaching your conclusions about what's actually going on here. At different retailers, Fallout 76 has been on sale for a while. I've mentioned it in videos from time to time, but pretty much since Black Friday, you can most of the time find Fallout 76 for $40 or under. There's a few weeks where it wasn't, but I think more than half of the time it was $40 or under. The interesting part being, though, the only way to actually get it for $40 at a lot of retailers is to buy the physical copy from them. If you go for the digital download or buy it from Bethesda themselves today, it will be the full $60, but $40 if you get their physical copy. Seemingly, they have excess stock and are trying to liquidate it, or at least that's what I'm assuming. So whether or not you think Bethesda is telling the truth about going free to play, it seems like there certainly is something going on. Some of you might just think they are lying and they are planning to go free to play, hence all of these copies getting recalled. But personally, I don't think that's actually the case, and I think one of the big indicators of that is the fact that these special editions are seemingly still there and not being affected. They still are discounted like all of the other editions, but the major difference is apparently at some of these retail stores, they're still on shelves. They're not being loaded into these trucks and being sent back to Bethesda. If you guys remember back to a couple of weeks ago, I made a video discussing whether or not I thought Fallout 76 was going to go free to play when that rumor popped up back then also. My conclusion back then was in the next couple of months, we're going to see a price cut for Fallout 76 and eventually it would go free to play, maybe at the end of 2019 or even in 2020. I think what could be happening here is maybe Bethesda is price cutting the game and in effect the Tricentennial Edition, the otherwise special edition, will now be the standard edition. Now of course that's all speculation, but I think it could be some explanation for this. Perhaps they are buying back some of the other copies, making some kind of deal with these storefronts that are selling them and trying to get some of those copies back, maybe with some kind of incentive. And I think that part of the story, the whole recalling or buyback of the copies, is definitely evidence that Fallout 76 sold pretty poorly. Like, this is only 3 months after release, and not many games have this issue where they're loading tons of copies into trucks to be shipped off. I think all of us knew Fallout 76 underperformed, but maybe we weren't quite realizing how poorly it did, at least in the physical sense. That could just mean a lot of people bought the game digitally, maybe just to get into the beta, so they last minute bought it digitally. But either way, I certainly think all of this information is very interesting and indication of something. Now, whether or not you think it's going free to play, a price cut like I think, or maybe it really just is a simple buyback program and that's going to be the end of this. Time will definitely tell, but even beyond all of that, I feel like it's a very interesting catalyst point for Fallout 76. Right now, we have the game in a state where it's mostly bug-free. Like, I would say if Bethesda is trying to present it to people that maybe abandoned it at launch, this would be a good time. But even further, there's about to be DLC in the next couple of weeks to a month, so it's a good time to jump into the game. I wouldn't be shocked if they announce the first DLC and then maybe also have something along the lines of a price cut or going free to play. It just is all very interesting, the timing of this. But outside of that, there were two other things that I'm not really sure were deserving of their own video, and I did want to touch on in this one. First and foremost, it seems like Fallout 76 has effectively gotten its first DLC event, even though it's super minor. So if you still play Fallout 76, you'll know when you log onto the game and there's new additions or just changes to the Atomic Shop, that little banner at the home screen will be edited. Well, this time it is edited yet again. There are new things in the Atomic Shop, all of them being night themed, and the banner now is Terror in the Night. Use the cover of darkness to your advantage. Through January 28th, enjoy a health regeneration buff at night. So I tested this in game, and the way it works is, first and foremost, you have to be out of combat, like a lot of the other passive health regeneration mechanics, and then from there it will regenerate your health at 1.7 per second, or in other words, 17 health per 10 seconds, or etc, etc. Now this could be relative to my own level. I don't have a separate character I could test this on, but at least for where I am and as far as my max health goes and what my level goes, it is pretty considerable. You'll definitely notice it if you're not currently in combat. I wouldn't exactly call it fast, but hey, it's better than nothing, right? But I think just in general, this is pretty interesting. I'm not sure if it's connected, but in the past, like all of a week ago, Bethesda announced in their Inside the Vault article that their first major content update will roll out over several weeks, consistently adding new activities to keep the world feeling fresh and ever-changing. Now, obviously, this isn't the larger content update, but maybe it's like the precursor to it. Like perhaps it will have something to do with nighttime or some of the cryptids that do inhabit Fallout 76's world. Maybe I'm just reaching here, but it is still pretty interesting. This is the first real gameplay change we've seen to Fallout 76 in kind of an event form, something only lasting a limited time and for a couple of days. Either way, I personally think it's cool. I'm really excited to see what Bethesda announces in the future. And as one final thing, I just kind of wanted to touch on, I didn't want to go too in depth on, there was recently a Reddit post with new data mined information about Fallout 76 and specifically some of these PvP modes and other details. So to be clear with these, they could end up being future content such as future DLC, or alternatively, they could end up being cut content, things that never end up making it into the final game. Fallout 4 had a lot of really cool sounding things that never made it in, so take everything with a grain of salt. So some of the first entries actually reference something known as Race for the Presidency. It talks about how you could participate in it, and as soon as you do, there will be no more PvP restrictions. It is referenced as a quest, which is pretty interesting because it sounds like an event we have in game right now, but of course it being called a quest is, well, that means it's not an event. And throughout some of the listings, you could find a lot of things referencing different ways of enemies, PvP, being the speaker, or actually getting your votes in. It seems very presidential debatey. That seems to be the theme of this one. And effectively, to break things down, it looks like it's going to be a King of the Hill style mode. When you have the spotlight, you are gaining points, but then you want to get people out of the spotlight so you can gain your own points. And all of this is tying into the Enclave Executive Suite. That's basically a place in the White Springs bunker that is not presently accessible. People have glitched in there. If you want to see that footage or that video, I will have it linked down below. But either way, it seems pretty interesting. There's several other things on this that are just cut content. I'll have the posts linked down below. But one of the interesting parts of that you could find, some of these just seem like they didn't have enough time to finish. There's a whole narrative going on where people think that Fallout 76 was a rushed game based on how it was released, and this only seems to give more evidence. One of the notes being, in the future the player will be tasked with collecting the pieces of the repair beacon. Due to time constraints for this first pass, however, that'll be added later. And you can find that all throughout Fallout 76. There's a lot of rooms that will probably be something, but as of right now, they're nothing. And as you can see here, we have the files to even back it up at this point. There's a few more things in there if you guys want to check it out, but otherwise, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.